I didn't come to save anyone. I came to feed on their pain. They kneel before me, calling me a mother in the Lord. Woman of fire. But they don't know the truth. I am not a prophetess. I am something far worse. I don't pray to heal them. I whisper curses, in the name of Jesus. I touch their heads. I lay hands on their children, and smile. But behind that smile, is a heart full of secrets. Wicked secrets. You want to know what I've done? I've buried things. Real things, goats, feathers, blood, bones, beneath my altar. I've stood on graves and called down blessings. I've given barren women water mixed with my own bath. I fed demons, and told the crowd it was God moving. When a woman insulted me, her baby stopped moving. When a man refused my seed offering, his shop burned down. And I didn't blink. I didn't pray. I just watched. The church claps and dances, while I destroy lives. They say I'm anointed. No. I'm possessed, with greed. With pride. With the sweet taste of control. You see this white lace I wear? It's not holy. It's a mask. Underneath, I'm not a servant of God. I'm the darkness they worship, without knowing. I am Prophetess Margaret. And this is my gospel of fear. One stormy Sunday morning, a desperate crowd packed into the massive hall of Holy Ground Ministries. People whispered among themselves as they craned their necks, hoping to catch a glimpse of Prophetess Margaret, known far and wide as Mama See It All. Some claimed she could look straight into your soul and reveal secrets you'd never told a soul. Others swore she spoke directly with God. But today, something didn't feel right. There was a strange tension in the air. Suddenly, a scream rang out from the side of the hall. Agatha, one of Mama's most trusted aides, rushed to the front, eyes wide and hands trembling. She's done it again. Agatha shouted. Mama has healed someone. The congregation erupted in cheers, clapping and shouting praises. But one person didn't join in. Elizabeth, a quiet churchgoer who had been attending for months, noticed something odd. She had seen the same crippled man walking around the market a few days ago, completely fine. Doubt crept into her heart. Could it all be fake? But who would believe her? Mama See It All wasn't just popular, she was powerful. People were ready to fight for her. She was untouchable. Years ago, Margaret had been an ordinary girl from a humble, God-fearing home. Her parents raised her to be honest, kind, and deeply devoted to God. She was the shining light of their church, leading Sunday school, organizing prayer meetings, and singing in the choir. Everyone adored her. Many said she was destined for greatness. But no one could have predicted that her path would turn so dark. After years of struggling to build her own ministry without success, Margaret attended a large conference for pastors. That's where everything changed. At the conference, she met several famous preachers who seemed to carry a mysterious power. One of them, a man named Pastor Benji, pulled her aside. "You're trying to be holy," he said, "but you'll never make a real impact unless you're willing to sacrifice." He told her about a special ritual that required a very personal offering. Margaret hesitated. But Benji promised it would give her the influence she craved. Driven by desperation, Margaret agreed. That night, she took part in the strange ritual. Her offering. The ability to ever have children. As the other pastors gathered and chanted around her, Margaret's heart pounded with fear and excitement. When it was over, something heavy settled over her. A strange energy clung to her like a dark cloak. She couldn't explain it, but she knew something had changed. When she returned from the conference, her luck flipped almost overnight. People began flooding her church services. Soon, Mama See It All was a household name, not just in her town, but all across Nigeria and even beyond. Her fame exploded. So did her wealth. But this was just the beginning. What no one knew was that Margaret, now worshipped as Mama See-It-All, was far more than just a deceptive preacher. Beneath her human skin was a dark secret. Margaret was part human, part serpent, a creature born from a forbidden underwater covenant she had entered after joining the cult. Every midnight, she would leave her luxurious mansion and vanish from the world of the living. She would transform, her skin turning to dark scales, her body shifting into something monstrous, and slip quietly into the river behind her home, swallowed by the waters like a ghost returning home. Deep below the surface, she would meet with others like her, pastors, prophets, and spiritual leaders who had made their own pacts with the marine kingdom. There, they shared dark knowledge, twisted rituals, and spiritual tricks to keep their followers trapped in deception. This was where Margaret drew her true power. The Marine Queen, a terrifying figure with the face of a woman and the body of a serpent, gave Margaret supernatural gifts, visions, strength, and the ability to see into people's lives. But the cost was heavy: her soul, her humanity, and worst of all, her womb. Margaret had made a permanent trade, giving up the very things that made her human in exchange for influence and authority. Yet, to her congregation, she seemed like a holy woman. No one suspected a thing. They had no idea she was leaving the human world at night or that their miracles came from darkness. People came from all over, desperate for healing, deliverance, and hope. Many would offer anything: money, livestock, even family heirlooms, just to receive a blessing from Mama. Margaret's ministry became a well-oiled machine, consuming people's wealth and dreams without mercy. Then came the mirrors. She introduced a strange new practice. Each member was handed a small mirror, which she called the mirror of life. This mirror, she said with authority, is blessed by the Almighty. Every morning, look into it. Speak to it. You will see what part of your spirit needs healing. Her followers took her words seriously, believing the mirrors were a path to spiritual growth. But in truth, the mirrors were dark tools connected to the marine kingdom. Through them, Margaret could spy on her members, see their fears, their secrets, their weaknesses. One Sunday, she called a young woman named Joyce to the front. "Last night," Margaret said with a sly smile, "you argued with your husband about his job, didn't you?" Joyce's eyes widened in shock. How did you know?" The congregation gasped in amazement. But the truth was, Mama had summoned Joyce's spirit in the night and used the mirror to watch her. The whole performance was a setup, designed to look divine and prophetic. Soon, Margaret started selling holy water and miracle oil, each in a small bottle with plain labels, but sold for outrageous prices. She claimed the water could cure any illness, fix any marriage, or bring instant financial breakthrough. Elizabeth watched in horror as a struggling mother gave up her last savings to buy a tiny bottle of oil. The scene deepened her suspicion. Something was deeply wrong. Then came Obra. He was a fresh graduate who had just returned from studying overseas. He came to the church with his mother, curious about Mama See-It-All and her so-called revelations. As soon as Margaret saw him, her eyes lit up. "Young man," she called, "please come forward." Obra hesitated, but his mother whispered, "Go. This could be your blessing." He stepped forward. Margaret raised her hand dramatically and took a deep breath. "The Lord has shown me something serious about you, my son," she said. The church fell silent. She looked at him with deep concern and slowly shook her head. "Your life battery is running low. Dangerously low." Obra's heart skipped a beat. "Life battery?" he asked, confused. "It means," Margaret said solemnly, "if nothing is done soon, you may not live to see your 30s. No marriage. No children. Your future will be lost, unless you act." Obra's face went pale. His mother clutched his arm in panic. "But the Lord," Margaret continued, "has provided a solution." She leaned in closer, her voice softer now. You must make a sacrifice. A powerful one. Something that cost you deeply. The Lord honors those who give from the heart. What kind of sacrifice, Mama? His mother asked. Margaret nodded as if she had expected the question. A cow, she said. Not just any cow, but one that is healthy and spotless. One that represents a new life. Obra's mind raced. He had never been asked to offer something like that before. I don't have access to a cow right now, he stammered. Margaret smiled gently. Don't worry. You don't need to find one. You can convert your offering into cash, and the church will handle the rest. Just obey. Obra's mother leaned in again. Do it. Don't delay. Your life is worth more than any money. Reluctantly, Obra wrote a large check. Margaret accepted it with a satisfied smile. My son, she said, your obedience has pleased the Lord. Your life is now in his hands. Obra walked back to his seat, shaken but hopeful. His mother clung to him, thanking Mama profusely. What they didn't know was that no cow would ever be bought. Margaret had no intention of making any sacrifice. Just like so many others before him, Obra's donation went straight into her personal project fund, money used to build her second mansion on the outskirts of town. And he wasn't the first. He wouldn't be the last. As the months rolled on, Mama see it all grew bolder. The miracles became more theatrical, the prophecies more invasive, and the demands more extreme. Yet, the crowd only grew larger. Every service now ended with her special touch session, where selected women were privately prayed for behind a velvet curtain. Only the most spiritually thirsty women were invited. And the invitations were always delivered with a sly smile and a soft whisper in the ear. Elizabeth, still burdened by what she'd witnessed with Obra, declined every invitation she received. But her friend, Miriam, didn't. Miriam was a single mother, beautiful and vulnerable. She had come to the church seeking healing and direction. What she found behind the curtain changed her forever. After her session, Miriam stopped answering Elizabeth's calls for days. When they finally met again, her eyes looked different, glassy, distracted, hungry. She had begun dressing provocatively, wearing dark lipstick and perfumes that smelled of sea salt and roses. You wouldn't understand, she whispered to Elizabeth, stroking her arm slowly. Mama showed me something deeper, something divine. Elizabeth recoiled, but Miriam leaned closer. She says we've been brainwashed by the world. That love between women is purer. That God is both male and female, and so are we. Elizabeth's stomach turned. She could feel the darkness behind Miriam's words. It wasn't just lust, it was spiritual corruption. And Miriam wasn't the only one. Within weeks, a quiet circle of women in the church began wearing deep blue shawls, symbols of their spiritual elevation. These were Mama's inner daughters. During night vigils, they stayed behind after everyone had gone. They chanted strange tongues and danced in slow, hypnotic rhythms that stirred more than just the spirit. One rainy evening, Elizabeth returned to the church unexpectedly. She had left her Bible in the pew after service and hoped to retrieve it before the night security locked up. As she crept past the hallway near the altar, she heard soft moans, womanly moans, coming from the prayer room. She froze. Curiosity, fear, and suspicion gripped her at once. Slowly, she tiptoed closer and peeked through the cracked door. There, surrounded by flickering candles and the pungent scent of burning incense, Margaret lay on a silk mat. Around her were three women, naked, oiled, and whispering chants. One of them was Miriam. They weren't praying. Their bodies moved in ways no holy woman should ever move, touching, kissing, worshipping not God, but each other. In the center of it all, Prophetess Margaret sat like a queen, her tongue tasting each of her daughters like communion. Elizabeth gasped and stepped back, knocking over a flower pot. The noise brought silence. "Who's there?" Margaret's voice thundered like a lioness. Elizabeth fled. She didn't look back. The next Sunday, Margaret's eyes found her from the pulpit. They glowed, ever so faintly, with a greenish hue. "My daughters," she purred, "the spirit of gossip is lurking among us. There is a Judas hiding in our midst." She stared straight at Elizabeth. "May the Lord expose every snake, and crush their heads." From that day, Elizabeth became a target. Her tires were slashed. Her small tailoring shop was robbed. Whispers followed her everywhere, accusing her of jealousy, witchcraft, rebellion. She tried to leave the church, but every time she packed her bags, something strange happened: a fire, a sickness, a terrifying dream where serpents wrapped around her neck. Meanwhile, Mama's influence only deepened. She opened a women's retreat center on the outskirts of town. There, select women stayed for weeks, no phones, no visitors. When they returned, they were never the same. They spoke in strange tongues. They refused to marry men. Some of them even claimed to see visions of a glowing serpent woman rising from the sea to bless them. Rumors spread that a river ran behind the retreat center. Some nights, the villagers nearby claimed to hear splashes and soft singing, followed by screams that faded into eerie silence. One of Margaret's victims, a young girl named Tina, tried to run away after her retreat. She showed up at her brother's home in torn clothes, babbling about underwater palaces, orgies with spirits, and being married to the Queen of the Waters. Before she could finish her story, she collapsed, foaming at the mouth. She died that night. Yet, Mama's followers only grew more loyal. They called her Mother of the Deep. She began wearing long blue robes with shells sewn into the hems. Her jewelry, made of pearls and coral, never left her body, even while preaching. She stopped using the Bible altogether. Instead, she waved her mirror of life above her head and shouted declarations from the throne of light. Those who questioned her were branded spiritual rebels, publicly humiliated, or mysteriously disappeared. During one service, a young usher named Patrick refused to join the after-hours prayers. Days later, he was found in the town's shallow stream, his chest clawed open, his eyes missing. The town began to whisper. But fear kept everyone silent. Margaret's power was no longer just spiritual, it had become territorial. The local chiefs, politicians, and businessmen all gave her offerings. Some even sent their wives for private cleansing. Those who wanted promotion in government or contracts in business were asked to sow into the deep. Large sums of money disappeared into her foundation accounts, funding international trips, imported perfumes, even a luxury yacht she parked secretly at a coastal marina. But Margaret's appetite was never satisfied. She once invited the teenage daughters of 3 of her top donors for a spiritual activation session. The girls, naive and full of faith, came willingly. Only one returned home, but not as herself. She spoke like Margaret, walked like Margaret, even dreamed Margaret's dreams. Her mother said she would wake up laughing at midnight and whisper, "Mama is calling. I must return to the river." One night, Elizabeth gathered the courage to confront Margaret. She stormed into the church office with a Bible in hand and fire in her eyes. "This is not of God," she shouted. "You are a deceiver, a marine witch, and you will be exposed." Margaret stood from her throne-like chair and smiled. "You finally found your voice," she purred. "Good. But you're far too late." She raised her hand and blew something invisible toward Elizabeth. A foul wind swept through the room. Elizabeth dropped to the floor, convulsing. As her vision blurred, she saw Margaret's skin ripple. For just a moment, the prophetess's eyes turned yellow, and her tongue forked like a serpent. Elizabeth blacked out. When she awoke, she was in her bed. How she got there, she didn't know. Her Bible was gone. Her body ached. But one thing was clear, She had seen too much. Elizabeth fled town that same week. Mama See It All continued her reign, her rituals deeper, her lovers more numerous, her throne more secure. No one dared challenge her again. And every night, beneath the waves of the river, her true kingdom waited, dark, eternal, and always hungry.